News comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
It is Sunday, November 13th. Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. We want to show you some video. This is a video going viral of middle school students in Michigan chanting "Build the Wall" during their lunch period after President-elect Donald Trump's victory. A Facebook video of this incident has been viewed millions of times. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Guadian. Thanks for joining us tonight. Now, for the next half hour, we will take a close look at the potential impact a Donald Trump presidency could have on U.S.-Mexico relations, immigration, and race relations in America. Remember, we want to hear from you tonight. You can email us your comments and your questions right now to ABC-7 Extra at KVIA.com. You can also reach us by calling 915-496-1771, and you can always tweet me at @Guadian ABC7. Just remember to use the hashtag ABC7 Extra so we can find you tonight. President-elect Donald Trump didn't mention the wall in his victory speech, but it is an issue he repeatedly touted out on the campaign trail.
We're going to build a great wall. The wall just got 10 feet higher.
Maybe someday they're going to call it the Trump Wall.
The border between the United States and Mexico stretches nearly 2,000 miles. Nearly 700 miles of it is already covered with some form of border wall or steel fencing. But Donald Trump wants more.
On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
Well, of course it can be done.
Professor Michael Deere is an expert in city and regional planning and the author of the book Why Walls Don't Work.
A large concrete structure, which might be 25 feet high, which should be very intensive in terms of resources and money.
Trump supporters say they can't wait to see the beginning of the border wall construction.
That wall will get built, and Mexico is going to pay for that wall.
I think he'll try to build a wall, and I think he'll try to secure our borders.
If people want to come into the country, they should do it legally.
But in Mexico, the idea of a wall is often shrugged off as a bump in the road north. Jose Torres Hernandez says he's illegally crossed into the U.S. many times to find work picking fruits and vegetables. He says a wall might make crossing over a little harder, but immigrants like him would always find a way to find work to feed their families. And Armando Flores Gutierrez says he's crossed the border 25 times, starting when he was just 16, to work farm fields all over the U.S. He says keeping people like him out of the country will only hurt the U.S.
Estados Unidos va a decaer en cuestión de la agricultura.
He says if he tries to remove all of the Mexicans in the United States, Donald Trump will realize what a huge mistake that is and how much the U.S. economy depends on Mexican immigrants.
And welcome back, everyone. I want to introduce the guest tonight. Joining us now is the chairman of the Republican Party for El Paso County, Adolfo Tellez, and we also have Angela Kercherga, border journalist and the Borderlands director of Cronkite News at ASU, and John Barella, the CEO of Borderplex Alliance and former cabinet secretary of economic development in New Mexico. Long titles. Thank you all very much for being with us tonight. Angela, I want to talk to you a little bit. We just heard about Trump and the wall. We heard what he had to say out on the campaign trail. His message is just changing a little bit. He did give an interview today.
Yeah, he talked to 60 Minutes, and he did mention, of course, the wall and border security are top on his agenda, but he mentioned there could be some fencing rather than a big border, beautiful wall. So he's kind of looking at the border and having some flexibility.
Okay. What would you like to see from your candidate as far as the wall goes, looking into the future? What do you want to hear from Donald Trump? Or the president-elect, I should say now.
Sure. I want everybody to remember first, there's always a lot of rhetoric that goes along when people are campaigning. Seldom does everything get done that candidates talk about when they're running to be elected. But now that he's elected, he is going to increase border security, whether it's a physical wall, and it was said, he did say today, he was adamant in the beginning, we're building this wall. Now it's fences appropriate in some areas. I think there'll be a lot of technology that'll be appropriate. I think this is a country of laws, and I think we need to comply with those laws. If we don't like the laws, we need to change them. But if we've got the laws, we need to live with them. And if he's going to build a wall, I think there will be a lot built, but I also think there'll be fences and there'll be electronic surveillance also.
So you're okay with him taking a little bit of a step back?
Oh yes, I think it's probably necessary.
Okay, Don, tell us a little bit about your organization. Some people out there may not be aware of it.
Well, the Borderplex Alliance is an organization that represents 3 states, 2 countries, our region, the Borderplex region. And we're there to help create jobs, to promote the region through economic development efforts and outreach. We're also there to try to help coordinate policies in this region. We have 9 task forces currently operating on a variety of issues comprised of government leaders, business leaders, civic leaders, everything from transportation and logistics to entrepreneurism, and that's our role. And I'm thrilled to be back. As you know, I'm just starting my 2nd month on the job, and I'm thrilled to be back home.
So when you hear building a wall, what's your gut reaction?
I think there's a better way. And my prior job, we were able to create, to the best of our knowledge, the first of its kind binational community, 70,000 acres in Santa Teresa, San Jerónimo, where we were able to master plan in a bilateral way through dialogue. Expansion of ports, we're looking at aligning utility corridors, future railroad crossings, and integral to that plan is security. And indeed, technology is part of that plan. But the way you guarantee or attempt to guarantee security is through bilateral dialogue and planning. A unilateral effort simply to build walls really is false security.
Angela, we have such a unique situation here along the borderland with El Paso and Juarez and the families or people who have families on both sides and the commerce that goes on. Is there a lot of fear out there right now?
Yeah, and getting back to the wall, I mean, we did a survey, a poll over the summer, and it showed a majority of people on both sides of the border, 7 sister cities, 14 in all. Cronkite News did the poll and found people don't want a wall. Not because they want open borders or they don't believe in laws, but they don't think it's the effective way to deal with problems like drug smuggling, demand for drugs, and also demand for labor. People are coming over because there are jobs waiting for them. Jobs that, according to the people employing them, they're having a hard time finding U.S. citizens to do. So getting back to your question, yes, lots of fear. Mass deportations was the other promise by President-elect Trump. And this evening he also said on 60 Minutes that he would focus on criminals, drug dealers, and gang members, which, Stephanie, is the policy right now, to focus on deporting criminals as opposed to dividing families. Under the Obama administration, we did see mass deportations. He was known as deporter-in-chief, and there were a lot of divided families. So really looks like President-elect Trump will continue the focusing on criminals strategy.
And the Republicans certainly talking about that today. Republicans working to calm concerns over comments President-elect Donald Trump made out on his campaign trail. On CNN's State of the Union today, House Speaker Paul Ryan tried to reassure folks that the government will not be conducting mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, despite remarks President-elect Donald Trump made to MSNBC last year.
I think we should put people's minds at ease. That is not what our focus is. That is not what we're focused on. We're focused on securing the border. We think that's first and foremost, before we get into any other immigration issue, we got to know who's coming and going in the country. We've got to secure the border. So we believe an enforcement bill, a border security enforcement bill, is really the first priority, and that's what we're focused on. We are not planning on erecting a deportation force. Donald Trump's not planning on that.
Ryan also spoke about Republicans' plans to repeal the Affordable Care Act. That is something that we're going to get to in just a few minutes. But again, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your calls. You can also email us. I think we have a couple calls already on standby. Let's go ahead and take one.
Yes, I'd just like you guys to answer the questions about, I guess, his first 100-day speech, Trump's first 100-day speech, and what he promises in his first 100 days as president. I think it intrigues me. It talks about the middle class with a family of 2 or more receiving a 35% tax break, and I think that goes unnoticed. Of course, I would really recommend that you guys stay unbiased, because you guys seem to be way controlled by the media, and it shouldn't be like that. You guys should be unbiased. Thank you.
And we certainly strive to be unbiased. Thank you very much for your phone call. I'm going to start with you. What do you really hope to see during that first 100 days?
I think if you listen to what was said in the last couple of days and when he originally put his plan out several weeks back in October about his first 100 days versus what you're hearing now. I think he has been listening to what's occurring. He's pulling together an advisory team. And his advisory team, there clearly are some significant differences between what he said and what the opinions are of some of his advisory team. And when you look at Obamacare as a great example, his original position was it was going to be completely eliminated and then something else to replace it. And today that's not the case. Today he's talking about leaving certain parts of it in there and then modifying it. So I think we're going to continue to have a focus on the issues that he presented, but I'm not sure the words he used before are going to be followed word for word, because when you get into having to compromise both with the Republicans and the Democrats in order to get something accomplished, I think he recognizes that there's going to have to be some modifications, even though knowing him, he is going to push to get his agenda taken care of.
Okay, we do have a tweet that I want to share with folks. This is from Julio Cesar Chavez. He says, how have existing physical barriers affected border communities so far? Thoughts?
Well, we've seen people tunneling under walls, climbing over walls, going around walls, and well, fences actually, and structures. And the other thing we hear from border communities, I heard this one, just did a story along the border, getting reaction from both sides to President-elect Trump's winning the election. People want to see more personnel at the ports of entry. And we often forget a lot of smuggling goes through those ports of entry, but it would also ease traffic for people who are coming over to shop, visit relatives, conduct business. So there really is, people are saying don't just focus on the walls, focus on other strategies.
And that economy is so important for both countries, Mexico and the United States.
And one of the best ways you can secure a border is to create jobs on both sides of the border. That's why free trade and NAFTA has been so important to this region. In fact, before NAFTA in the United States, there was about $159 billion of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. Fast forward to today, it's well over $500 billion, and hundreds of thousands of jobs, in fact, have been created in the United States as well as south of the border. And people are just looking for economic opportunities in the end. And you can build walls once again in political theater if you want and pursue rhetoric. But the fact of the matter is, when you create jobs, once again on both sides of the border, people will stay and people will pursue those opportunities. The Mexican people are incredibly entrepreneurial and they seek opportunity. We know that.
I have to stop you there, sorry, because we got to get this break in. But we'll also talk the peso on a bit of a roller coaster ride because of all of this. And remember, we want to hear from you. We want you to share your comments or your questions for our guests. You can call our comment line 496-1771. And if you're online right now, you can also email us ABC-7 Extra at KVIA.com. We'll be right back. Sure, we'll come back to that. Sorry, they were like, rah, rah. And welcome back. Univision anchor Jorge Ramos is sharing his thoughts on reports of hate crimes since Donald Trump's victory in the presidential election. In the new documentary, Hate Rising, Ramos focuses on hate groups that have embraced the president-elect.
He emboldened many groups that right now are expressing their hate and dislike of minorities. When he said during the campaign that Mexican immigrants were criminals and rapists, words are important, words matter, words have consequences, and what we're seeing right now is precisely that. If there's a headline for the Hispanic community right now, it would be fear. Fear of hate, fear of reprisals.
And we should remind everyone Ramos had a tense relationship with Trump. You may remember he was kicked out of a Trump press conference back in the summer 2015 when he tried to ask about the candidate's immigration policy. Once again, I want to introduce the guests that are joining us tonight. We have the chairman of the Republican Party for the El Paso County, Adolfo Tejas, Angela Kucherga, a border journalist and the Borderlands director of Cronkite News at ASU, and John Barella, the CEO of Borderplex Alliance and former cabinet secretary of Economic Development in New Mexico. Thank you all very much for staying up late and being with us tonight. Before we move on a little bit, you wanted to have a remark on our last conversation.
Sure. John was talking about jobs, and that's one of the issues on both sides of the border is jobs. And I completely agree with that. If you look at what Trump was campaigning on was jobs for middle America, the people that have been left out. And I am 100% for jobs, and we need to get them. We need to get them improved, and we need to make them available for American citizens. And so jobs is a focus. It's going to continue to be a focus, and it's important for our country. We've got the highest number of people that have left the job market right now. The last time it was this bad was in 1970. That's got to change, and I'm hoping that's going to change under this new administration.
Okay, I want to get back to hate crimes a little bit. There's something that happened to Estela Casas, a news anchor here at ABC-7, that we want to share with everyone. She got a disturbing voicemail this last week, and we want to share with you a statement that she put on Facebook about it. And she says, "I got a voice message from a man who chose not to identify himself, asking if I was ready to say goodbye to illegal aliens. He went on to say, 'Say goodbye, baby.' I took it as a personal attack. For the record, I'm a first-generation El Pasoan. I am proud of my Mexican heritage, language, and culture, and I'm also proud to be a productive American who is invested in my community. I'm here to stay." I talked to her. She was disturbed by that. I wanted to ask you guys, you weren't necessarily surprised by the protests going on, but the violence, yes.
That and I knowing Estela too, and how much she means to this community and how much she's dedicated her life to being in El Paso. She could have left years ago, and she's chose to stay here and build a life and build a family. And so it is disturbing. It's disturbing to us as journalists to see that kind of personal attack. And we are seeing it against other journalists. And a colleague I know who is based in Phoenix for the New York Times, she also had someone confront her because she happened to be on the phone speaking Spanish. She's also a U.S. citizen, but happens to speak dual languages. And that kind of thing, I don't know that we would have seen people be that blatant before this election. And I'm not blaming the president-elect, although some people are, but the fact is we need to call those people out and say that hatred and that kind of personal attack is not valid.
Your thoughts?
Oh, I totally agree with that. I think during this last election, from a lot of perspectives, we were talking during the break that at the Republican office we get calls with regularity, some of them that are very offensive. And again, that is inappropriate. I think people should be gentlemen and ladies. I think we need to have an election. We had an election. He won fair and square. You don't have to like it. I didn't like it the last two elections, but we accepted it, and we need to go on. And getting violent, getting aggressive, using profanities is clearly inappropriate.
Okay, we have some more callers that we want to get to. Go ahead, caller.
Dennis, East Central El Paso. My comment would be, people used to come to the United States to become Americans. Now people are coming to the United States to bring whatever country they come from with them. So they're either Mexican-American or Syrian-American or German-American. I mean, what's wrong with being an American-American? Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your call. Who wants to jump on that?
I'd be glad to, because I'm in agreement with that. I think we are Americans, and I come from a Hispanic background. I've known a lot of people that have come here legally, started with nothing. We started with nothing in my family, and we've been successful because of a lot of hard work, because we were willing to accept the American way. We came to America for the opportunities, and I think that's what people should want to do today. And I agree with the comment. There's too many people that want to maintain their country, it's okay to maintain their culture. Culture is clearly important, but you've got to understand and assimilate with the American culture also.
Yeah, well, certainly we're all immigrants in America. Unless you are a Native American, we're all immigrants, and I think, you know, throughout history, people have brought some of their traditions and their culture with them. Were you surprised by that caller we just got?
Well, I think we hear this repeatedly, especially when there are hard economic times. Immigrants become the scapegoats, and there have been waves and waves of immigrants who come in, and it's taken them time to adapt, but all have assimilated, and we see that now. We've all seen within a generation or two, even children here on the border no longer speak Spanish and can't communicate with grandma. So that process happens naturally, and there's no reason to point to one group and say you're not becoming part of America. I think everyone wants to be part of this country, or they wouldn't be here.
Okay, I think we have some more calls. Go ahead, caller.
And my name is John Justice. My question is, if we deport 3 million people, won't we be vacating houses, leaving loans unpaid, leaving family members without means of support that will have to be made up for? And how is that going to help us economically to have more jobs in this country?
Angela, that might be a good question for you. What does happen when a person is deported?
Well, and that is a good question. Some people have been here for decades and have businesses and own homes. It might surprise people and create jobs. And beyond that, families who have U.S. citizen children, if the parents go back home, sometimes the kids stay and try and continue their lives with relatives or others. But it really is a complicated, difficult issue, and it's not as easy as saying you're going back to wherever you came from and it's over. There are lots of questions that need to be answered, and that caller is right. These are important issues economically and also for families.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back.
Was the top issue for border residents on the U.S. side, and people felt, as you said, felt very safe on the U.S. side all along the border, especially El Paso, and on the Mexican side, the big issue was safety, for obvious reasons in some cities, Tamaulipas, for example, in that state.
Right. Okay. Do you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say something. During the campaign, I invited him to come down here. I did not get a positive response because the understanding was, especially in the beginning, it started to reduce, that Texas was going his way anyway, so he didn't need to come to El Paso. But after the elections, after voting last week, I have re-invited him for other reasons now, because he needs to understand the subject that we're talking about right now. He needs to understand what's really going on the border, and I sent him a couple notes already that El Paso is a place to come to get educated. And I know Will Hurd supports that. I have not talked to some of the other congressmen or representatives, but I know he would encourage him if he had the opportunity, and we all need to do that.
Yeah, well, let's hope he does come down to the borderland. Final thoughts you might have tonight, looking ahead.
Well, we have a number of challenges, but a number of opportunities, and come together as a region to promote this place that is so fantastic. And bottom line is, our short-term goal, certainly in the Borderplex, longer-term goal, is to, again, to re-script that narrative, to tell people that this is an amazing place to live, it's an amazing place to invest, and it's an amazing place to visit. And that's going to be our goal, and we're going to be very aggressive in getting that message out in the short and the long term.
How's the peso doing?
Peso's devaluing. It's 20 to 1 today, and so it continues to be challenged.
Okay, final thoughts?
Very much the same way. I think there's a lot of positive things going on. I think it's time to get the election and all the noise that occurred as part of the primaries and the election behind us, get behind our president. And that means if he's doing things that we don't want him to do, I think we need to be very vocal about it, but do it all in a positive way and take this country forward. This country is a great country, and it's going to be better in the future. We need to keep working in that direction.
Okay, and still a lot of fear out there from some folks.
Fear, and I agree, get beyond the hard-line rhetoric and look for real solutions along the border and obviously across the country, and deal with the fear, and also look at Mexico not as something to be feared, but as a partner in dealing with some of the issues, but also economically. We cannot turn our back on Mexico because this region depends on Mexico, and we have really taken advantage and been able to benefit from our location geographically.
And if the president-elect does come to the borderland, hopefully that is a message that he will hear. Thank you all so much for staying up late and being with us here on Sunday Extra. And thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Guadian. This has been ABC 7 Extra. Bye-bye.